Finding Peace in Chaotic Times. We are wrapping up this series this month, and it's been a deep and rich month together, has it not? And it's certainly an important message to explore during this time. So we land in this place of I am as the goal when we find ourselves in a world of chaos. We can return to the eye of the storm, the center, that not escape the storm, but to discover that who we truly are is that peace. We are the I am. We are the peace. So I want to honor the journey we've taken so far, and if any of you have missed, check YouTube or Facebook. So week 1, Reverend Jenna kicked us off with the discussion illuminating this idea that no one is against you. That in itself is a message, right? And the importance of taking responsibility for our lives. And then in week 2, we talked about this idea of the myth of control. Did that stir some stuff up, y'all? How many of you like to be in control? So we looked at this illusion of control and this idea that if we could just get everyone to do and behave and act right, then everything will line up just so we'll feel safe and everything will be okay, right? Well, life seems to have another message for us. So we uncovered how, in fact, this desire for control is often just to cover up our own fear. And we remember the deeper truth that peace doesn't come from trying to control the circumstances of our life. Peace arises when we surrender to the deep awareness of love and life and the flow of God, universe, moving in and as and through us. So when we release that white-knuckled grip and remember that we are always held by something greater, we can begin to let go of the control and to trust that the presence of love, of life is always moving in as and through us, even when we don't understand or can't see how, in fact, this could be for us. If we lean into the idea and get curious, we can begin to shift our perspective and see new possibilities, new solutions. But if we're going at it as this is right and this is wrong, and I have to fix something, then we are often still stuck in the swirling energy of the storm instead of residing in that peace of I am. This past week, I had the opportunity to go to the Justice Ministry Conference with the organization Build that we are part of here. And it was actually hosted by the larger organization called DART. So Build is our Lexington group, but there are groups all over kind of the Midwest and Southeast that do this work. So I rode with a friend from Christ Church Cathedral, and it was in Charlotte, North Carolina. So the path to get there is mostly on I-40. You go through Asheville, the mountains. If anyone has been through that way recently, you'll know the effects of the hurricane have washed out so much of that road. So they're still working on it. There's many times you go down to one lane. On our way there, the 6-ish hour trip was about 9 hours door to door. And a semi had kind of gone off, and there's only the one lane, so we all sat for quite a while. And I don't know about you, but in those moments, it is often hard for me to just sit in the opportunity of the calm. I want to control the traffic. I want to know what is going on, because of course we don't know what's going on until about 2 hours later when you actually pass it and see what's been cleared. And sometimes you never see or never know, and you just have, but how many of you really want to know, like, what's going on? I keep pulling up my map and looking to see how long the red is and how long it says we're going to be sitting, and then our ETA kept jumping from like an hour later to 2 hours later, then back a little bit, and I'm just like, I am a person that would much rather find an alternate route just to keep moving than to have to sit in that. But I was thinking about that this morning, oddly enough, and I was like, isn't that a metaphor for at least my life? I would much rather just keep moving than sit in the discomfort of the unknown. And yet, my friend who was driving, as we were coming back, kind of knew to expect a little bit of the same. It kept trying to reroute us. And she was like, I'm just going to, no, I don't know where that's we're just going to sit, we're just going to sit. We're just going to keep kind of going on the path. And I was like, wow. Sometimes, in order to avoid the discomfort of the unknown, I can just move. I just need to keep moving, right? And perhaps there is an opportunity, a gift, in just surrendering to the moment and taking the opportunity to be peace, to be calm. I wasn't driving. I could even just close my eyes and breathe, or we weren't moving fast, so I had the opportunity to do some things on my phone. But I just invite that for you to reflect on. Is that sometimes your go-to strategy? Instead of sitting with whatever is occurring, do you just want to go over here or do that and do this? And maybe there's an opportunity in that for you as well. And last week we looked at sacred practices for peace. We talked about the importance of being anchored, not reactive, and the principles of presence, breath, stillness, as well as compassionate boundaries. Choosing to extend our energy instead of withdrawing or attacking, but to allow the love that we are to extend and radiate from us from that place of breath and stillness. Instead of reacting, taking responsibility by being able to respond through that sacred pause. And then, if that's a challenge, sometimes the universe creates the opportunity for a sacred pause, like traffic. And we affirm that peace is not just something we feel, but it is something we practice and we become. So we're going to wrap up this concept today by talking even more about how to be peace in our relationships. The book we're using this month is called The Eye of the Storm by Gary Simmons. And he writes, "The purpose of your center is not to make the storm go away. The purpose of taking life into your center is to get what you need in order to become fully present to the storm." So again, turning within instead of looking out there for things to change or for what we can do to shift. We are not here to avoid the storm. We're here to live from the eye of the storm. That centered presence that bridges the gap between God, spirit life, and the circumstances we find ourselves in. We get to be that connecting link between heaven and earth. And when I say heaven, I'm not talking about a place in the sky out there that we only experience after we die. Being the connecting link between heaven and earth means allowing the divinity of our essence to be experienced right here, right now, in human form on earth. So think of it as like you are the tuning fork. And you can tune into that resonance and that vibration of peace and wholeness of the divine right here, right now. You are the presence that can bless a situation just by being present in it. Think about that. You may often hear me say, like, imagine yourself being the energy and love that kind of goes before you when you walk into any space, so that you can be the highest vibration in the room in order to shift the energy, instead of kind of moving into a space and being tumbled by whatever else is going on. Because I don't know about you, but I certainly do not want to live in a place where I'm being tumbled around in the storm and the chaos of the latest news or drama that is occurring, right? And this we can look at in a very practical way in our individual relationships as well. So I want you to take a moment and think about your own life. Perhaps there's a place that feels like you are living in a little bit of conflict or chaos or a little mini storm going on in some personal relationship. Perhaps you're in a tense conversation, maybe with a partner or a coworker or a family member. And then voices start to rise, your heart begins to race, and your ego mind really wants to be right, to defend or lash out. Anyone relate? Yeah. There are a number of Baptist churches at this conference that I was at. So you may hear me saying a little bit, can I get an amen? Because it was all about the amen. Amen. All right. So this is the circumference, that pause, that moment, the center, and the swirl of the storm around you. But listen to this idea that Gary presents in this book. The tension between you and your enemy, and he's referring to the story of Jesus biblically, the idea of our enemy. So anyone that we may feel kind of against in the moment, not some big dramatic enemy, right? So the tension between you and your enemy is the circumference, the storm. The instruction is, how do you move to your center where you can be present to the enemy without feeling diminished? So basically it comes back to knowing and standing in our inherent power, worth, and value, yes? Whatever's happening, how can we stand in our power? And that is so much of what they talked about this week, is in order to create these systemic changes of the work of justice, we must know our power. And our power doesn't reside out there. And our power comes from the divine presence within. And when we come together with more people, we can really create a powerful impact and speak truth to power as we see it, as those, officials and people who create the laws and make the rules of our society. So he offers this practice, this 4-step practice that I want to offer as the practice for us this week. Love, bless, do good, pray. Those of you who are reading the book and the book study, this may be familiar. So love, accept and value the person before you, or the institution, or the political leader, whatever you feel in conflict with, whatever that relationship may be. Accept and value the person before you, even when you disagree. So we can disagree on things, very fundamental rights that we may have very passionate ideas about, and we can still understand that the person that we are in conflict with is a beloved, is an expression of the divine. And how can we learn to value and honor that person in that conversation? That is really the first step. And that is what love calls us to do, right? And again, not to be complacent, not to bow down to power and, not to say, you're right, I'm going to cow down just to keep the peace, right? That's a different concept of peace, like people-pleasing kind of peace. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the idea of standing strong in our values and who we are and our power, and knowing that there is this presence of love that is the truth of who I am and is the truth of who you are and is the truth of all. So how can we start with that construct of love? As we say every Sunday, love is always the answer. The second step, bless. Endow the situation with the capacity for good. Speak peace into it. So to bless the situation, I would say, in my words, is kind of like being willing to see that it is an opportunity for growth or change, and to be willing to be open for a new possibility or a shift in perspective, right? So we're going to bless the situation, even though it may feel hard or tense, from the place of, okay, there's a gift here, there's an opportunity here. So love, blessed. Third one, do good. Choose the next right, kind, honest action. Take the next step. Choose the words kindly from your heart. Honest action. Candid, right? It still doesn't mean we have to mince words to, oh, well, maybe, like take action from that place of centered peace and power. There's a difference between like kindness and niceness, right? So often we're culturized is the word that came to mind. I was like, I don't think that's a real word, but you know what I mean. I know there's a word for it. And I can speak for myself as a woman growing up in the South. We are often conditioned, that's probably the better word, to be nice, to smile, to be pleasant, to not stir things up or speak out to things. We just don't talk about that, or just, And if or when we do, we as women are often labeled as something that is not very kind. I'll leave it as that. So, I definitely unconsciously grew up with this conditioning and was always nice, right? And my name's Rainbow. I would be the sunshine, the light, the niceness. And it was very important to me, even though I didn't really realize it at the time, to be liked. And then I grow along my path, and I find myself in various leadership positions. And then all of a sudden, I'm really confronted by how to be an effective leader and still value being nice and liked by everyone. Doesn't really work out. And I can choose kindness, to speak truth to power with love. May not always look nice, and it is what we are called to do. It's been a journey, y'all. I'm still unpacking some of that conditioning on what that looks like. And sometimes it can be messy. Anyone who's kind of working towards shifting a belief or one of these ways that we've been conditioned, sometimes we can kind of go from one end to the other, and then we kind of find our way, right? So doing good is the third step. Choose the next right, kind, honest action. And hear the word action. Do, right? It actually means more than just in our own hearts and minds or journals. It is taking what we value into practice through our actions and deeds. And lastly, pray. Invite Spirit to guide you and to remind you who you are. So as we move through this world in this time and in our personal relationships and everything that is occurring, imagine what could shift if you brought that into your next difficult conversation. Set the intention first to let love lead the way. I would honestly kind of reverse this and start with prayer or affirmative prayer, spiritual mind treatment, to call forth that inner guidance, to let love lead the way before I even enter into or respond to any sort of situation like that. And then choose with intention to bless it, to ask, how is this for me? What is the opportunity? What is a new possibility? And then take that action. Make the phone call, say the thing, whatever it may be. This is not spiritual bypassing. This is spiritual power. It is being the eye of the storm, living in that land of I am. Simmons also says the person or situation is a mirror connected to your wholeness or worth. If you're not connected, you could not be intimidated. If you were connected, you could not be intimidated or threatened. So life is a mirror reflecting back to us our truth, but also reflecting back to us those spaces and places for us to grow and to practice and to lean into our wholeness and worth even more. When someone triggers us, it's not a sign to blame or judge. It's a reminder to return to our inner wholeness and to ask, what inner resources am I being called to strengthen right now? How am I being invited to know God as the source and love and compassion of my life even more in this situation? What are the inner resources that we are being called to strengthen in any situation of conflict? Perhaps it's self-trust, compassion, courage. And remember, in that moment, you are called to be peace. Not to be a peacekeeper or a peace talker, but to be a peacemaker. It's an active practice. It takes courage, and it is divine work. So remember, the world needs your energy, your love, your peace. Not your perfection, not your politeness or niceness, not your performance, your peace. The embodied, grounded presence that knows even when life swirls, when relationships get messy, when injustices scream, you can stand in the I am in the land of I am. I am the center. I am peace. This is our spiritual responsibility and our spiritual opportunity. So I want to close once again by affirming our affirmation today. One final time, I will invite you to repeat after me. I am a living presence of peace. Radiating calm into the world. And may it be so through your breath, through your choices, through your intention, through your conversations, through your actions, and through your life. Yes? Let's take it into prayer. Taking that deep breath now, so grateful to feel the love that we are. So grateful to recognize the one life, the one presence as the divine activity of all. So grateful to know that peace is the very essence and nature of the universe. That power is the strength and the courage leading us to live in integrity, knowing that this one life is moving and expressing in, as, and through all life as love, as peace, as power. I speak this word now from this place of oneness, knowing that each and every person hearing the sound of my voice right here, right now, is a divine expression of the one. And that we are each made aware of who we are to be and what we are becoming and what is ours to do in each and every moment. When faced with a conflict or chaos, what does it look like to turn within as an opportunity to grow in our strength, in our power, and to be the peacemaker? So I affirm right here, right now, that we are doing this work. We are creating a resonant field of peace and love that extends way beyond our own being and hearts, way beyond this community and room, way beyond the city of Lexington, the state of Kentucky, the United States of America, and wraps all the way around the world as this field and vibration of wholeness and love, as all beings know they are worthy, and as all beings honor and respect the worth of others. This is what I know to be true, and this is what I call forth right here, right now, by the power of my word, knowing that love and justice reigns. I'm so grateful for the fulfillment of this word as I release it now into the action of the law that always says, yes, my beloved, it is done, and it is so. And together we say, and so it is. Yes.